Christian Klepp is the co-founder and director of client engagement at Einblick Consulting and has more than 13 years of B2B branding, marketing, and communications experience across different markets. He's worked closely with companies such as Cadence Design Systems, Intera IT, and many, many more. Christian has also an international speaker, spending a lot of time abroad, working and living in places such like Singapore, the Philippines, Australia, Germany, and China before relocating to Canada. He has a Bachelor of Science in Business and Management Studies degree from the Management Development Institute of Singapore and is currently based in Toronto, Canada, with his wife and daughter. Let's see what makes Christian so buzzworthy. Welcome to the show, Christian. How are you doing today?
Buzz, it's an honor to be on the show, and I'm doing well. Thank you.
That's awesome. I hope it isn't too hot in Toronto, Canada.
It's cooled down a little bit now, thanks to all this rain that we've been getting. Yeah, but
Oh, okay.
previously it was, we were cooking.
Oh my gosh. So how hot does it get in Toronto, Canada?
Well, okay,
In
so
Fahrenheit. My listeners are mostly American.
Yeah, so we do Celsius over here, so I'm trying to like convert. I guess we don't get up to 100 for sure, but like
Okay.
high 90s. Right?
Okay. Wow.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
I lived in Illinois, which,
Yeah.
is close. It's up there, right? It's up north as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I couldn't
We
believe
can
it.
wave
It got
across
into
the Great Lakes.
Yeah, it was like 3 hours south of Chicago,
Mhm.
which is right there on the Great Lake, right? One of
Yes.
the Great Lakes. And I was like, how the heck is it so humid?
Mhm.
It's in the plains. All there
Yeah.
are is like cornfields and soybean fields.
Mhm.
And then it's hot and humid. Like if you wanted to work outside, you had to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning when before the sun rose. And then you were back in your house no later than 10 a.m.
Yep.
And you don't dare go back out unless you're going into an air-conditioned car until about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was crazy. You still could get 8 hours of sun, but you had to do it from 6 to 10 and 5 to 9.
I can totally relate because I spent a big part of my early life in Southeast Asia, so that's tropical humidity. So just think about
yes.
Florida.
Oh,
right?
yes. Yep. Well,
Right?
I'm in Virginia now, and I'm getting and this is my first state that I've lived in on the East Coast, and the humidity is different here, and it is no joke, but
Yes.
it comes and goes, which is great. And it doesn't get into the hundreds, which is
Okay.
it actually it peaks in the low 90s a few times, but a lot of 80s, but high humidity. I can handle that. I just golf in the morning now. So yeah, but I get 4 seasons now. So I'm really, really happy. And it's very green here, and there's mountains and hills and oceans just down the road. And it's a beautiful place. So we really lucked out compared to my first move after leaving Alaska. So
yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
So you and I have known each other now for almost 3 years.
Yes.
That's amazing, right?
Yes. Thank you.
And I think I was a guest on your podcast, which is still around. And remind everybody what your podcast, the name of it is, so they can check.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah. So it's B2B Marketers on the Mission, and we just launched episode 145.
145. That is so awesome. We are on 110, a Buzzworthy marketing show. So that one has gone through a couple of schizophrenic phases, but we're finally there. I think you and I talk a lot of the same stuff on that podcast, which is why I created this show. This is a younger show. For our listeners, know that this is probably going to be like episode 25, maybe 30. Okay. So welcome to the young version of it's actually iteration number 2 of the You Are Buzzworthy podcast. So earlier this year, for our listeners, my company went to B2B marketing exclusively. So before, when Christian and I first met, B2B was half of what we did.
Yes, that's right.
And when I had a lot of B2C marketing, so companies that were selling to consumers versus other businesses. Right. And we are exclusively with service-based businesses. So now, so not only just B2B, and B2B doesn't stand for what you think it stands for. See, our B2B marketing is bad to buzzworthy marketing.
Boom. Yeah. So I tend to tell people that B2B stands for from boring to brilliant.
That's where
Right.
we started. We started for something
Mm.
like that, but then, of course, we got the buzzworthy. Come on now. I mean,
Sure. Yeah. Of course. Of course. Of course. Yeah. Absolutely. 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 Yeah.
boring to
I'm
I
I'm
could
a couple
even go
months
with
late with the
boring to
brainstorming.
buzzworthy. I would love that too. But
Yeah.
no?
I said I said I'm a couple months late with the brainstorming of ideas and whatnot. Right. So.
I love it. All right.
Oh,
So now you and is it you and your wife still
yes.
working together in the
Yes.
company? And then do you
Yes.
guys have a staff that works with
It's
you, or is it just the two
it's
of you?
there's two of us. Mhm.
Okay. And then so what type of companies do you guys like to work with, or what's your focus when it comes to B2B branding and marketing?
Yeah. So again, like we talked before you hit record. We've done this like deep dive and soul searching, and we did a bit of an analysis of all the companies we've worked with over the past 4 years, right?
Hmm.
And we identified three general groups, right, that tend to be
Okay.
the right fit, that are also that have that pain point that's amplified enough that they want to work with somebody like us, right? Because that's really important too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they tend to be small to mid-sized firms that are either doing something related to technology,
Okay.
um, to a certain extent SaaS, and
Okay.
I'll explain why. All right. And the third one is also professional services, but it's in a specific sector. Like we tend to work with a lot of companies now in the security sector,
Well,
right?
there's technology, and
Yeah,
yeah, it makes sense.
yeah,
Okay. All right. All right. Here we
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah,
Software technology
yeah.
service. I get it. All right. There we go. I
Exactly,
love it.
exactly, exactly. And SaaS, it's really SaaS that they've reached a certain stage of like I would say funding. There's a bit of like maturity around the product, so it's not somebody that's just about to launch their product, right? Because they a
Mhm.
lot of the times, 8 times out of 10, they spend most even if they get like significant funding, they spend a lot of that on product development.
Mhm.
They don't really see the point, and no offense to anybody doing this out there, but they don't really see the point of branding or marketing because they're still in that stage where we're so focused on the product, we're so focused on building out the features, and that famous line from Field of Dreams, right? If you
Yeah.
build it, he will come, right?
Right.
I realize that that's a very frequently misquoted quote, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's right. Because it's usually they say they, huh?
yeah, and I looked it up, and it's actually he will come, right? So
He will come
that's that movie.
because
If
they were
you
trying to get a
yeah,
particular player to show up
yes,
who was
exactly.
actually dead.
Yeah.
It was a
So,
ghost, right? Wasn't it a
yes,
ghost in that
I
movie?
believe so. It's been a while
Yeah.
since I've seen it, but it's,
I know.
it's
And now you
Kevin
got me. Now you
Costner,
got me
Ray
thinking. I'm like,
Liotta,
I think it
right?
was the
Yeah,
ghost that they were trying to get to come out of
yeah,
the woodwork
yeah,
for that.
yeah.
Yes.
So in any
Anyhow,
case,
okay. Yes,
sorry,
we
I
digress.
digressed.
As Christian and I usually do when we get together,
Yeah.
so it's all good.
So we can't really work with folks that are at that stage, right? They have to be a little bit further on because then they realize once they've launched the product how important it then becomes, right? To do branding and marketing. And sometimes you always want to argue that you should have thought about that from the get-go, but that's how a lot of these people learn, right? They
Right.
learn from the first time around, and then they realize they launched their product to the market, and they realize, oh, we are drowning in competition here, and
Uh-huh.
everybody is fighting with price and
Yep.
features, right?
Price and features instead of starting with pain points and
Yes,
solutions and outcomes, right?
correct, correct.
Like, and it's so amazing to me that, you get like everybody's looking for that product market fit, right?
Mhm.
But then they don't think to use marketing research to
No,
find out what
exactly.
features would make us 1 degree different. Cause that's usually all it is. It's just like
Yep.
1 degree difference. We just launched our CRM.
Mhm.
And what makes ours very different is that it is one made for the small to medium size B2B business,
Mhm.
specifically in the services sector.
Right,
So we do not we did not build it for the industrial commercial
right.
manufacturers. We did not
Mhm.
build it for the
Mhm.
construction industry or commercial construction industry, stuff like that. It's literally just those professional services, those business consultants, and those fractional executive firms. It's very
Mhm.
specific because the way that they nurture their sales cycle is very unique, and two, the way that they nurture
Yes.
their prospects is unique, and the reselling and the nurturing after the sale is extremely unique. And so we're like, okay, there's a gap here. Now, did we just build it and go, okay, this is what everybody needs? No.
No.
I've been doing a lot of this, a lot of talking to other marketers and and a lot of B2B businesses out there. And using that marketing research. This is all marketing research, people. What you're hearing right now is you're doing research and listening on how other consulting and B2B businesses are going through their venture through this journey of entrepreneurialism in the B2B world, right? So and that's where I think a lot of people think that research has to be extremely structured and scientific. And it's like, most of it is just repetition of having the same conversation and making notes. And now with AI, I don't know if you're doing this yet, but I'm taking the transcripts of those conversations and I'm letting AI chew on it and go, okay, I just talked to 12 marketers that are all this, or not 12 business owners that are all the same size. They've been around the same. What is the commonality of all of these conversations? What's the biggest pain point? Blah, 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 blah. And boom. Now, are they giving me is AI giving me everything? No, but it's giving me the pain points, right? It's identifying the commonalities. It's giving me a roadmap to finding what I need to whatever objective I'm trying to achieve, right?
Absolutely.
So I mentioned AI. How are you guys since you guys are focused on the technology sector with security there, how are you guys utilizing AI in your branding? Let's talk about branding specifically, because I think everybody talks about content marketing. Like, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Like, you can use AI in a lot of ways, and people are probably sick and tired of me talking about how to do it right. So, but branding is something that I don't talk too much about. So let's talk about that. How are you and your company leveraging AI in the branding side of marketing?
Okay, so here's the thing, right? Like it's a great question. The thing is, you can't really talk about branding without like bringing market research into it, right? And a lot of these inexperienced founders tend to say, well, let's just skip the research part and go straight in. And that's where I always say no. And the way that I always try to explain that, because, some of these guys, and I get it, like, I mean, you and I, we're business owners, we're entrepreneurs, and a lot of the stuff that we're spending money on, it came from somewhere, right? It's coming out of the companies, like I call it the treasury, right?
Right.
So I get it that they want to understand, okay, what am I spending money on, right? But the way and there's plenty of analogies out there, right? I just tend to use this one because it's the easiest one to go back to. Let's just say you're planning to build a house.
Okay.
You've got the property, you've got the material, you've got the contractors, etc., but you don't have a blueprint. What's the house going to look like when you start building it, and B, when you finish it, if you don't have that blueprint handy? Right? So do you just jump straight to like tiling the roof if you don't have a foundation, and pick out the appliances if there's not even a frame of the structure there?
Right.
No. Right? So, and by the same token, and a lot of these, there's a lot of companies out there that, they have this, I call it the knee-jerk reaction, right? Like, and we've all spoken to them. Hey, Buzz, I heard that, like, we should be guesting on podcasts to build brand awareness. Oh no, actually, on second thought, we should be making videos. Oh no, actually, we should launch our own podcast. So what do you think? And to that, I always say, well, what's the plan? What do you want to do? Right?
Yeah.
Where is this all going to go? This has to be linked to some kind of strategy, right? Some kind of, going back to the blueprint analogy, right? You have to have a blueprint in place. And for me, the market research and the branding is the blueprint, right? So now I'm going to answer your question about AI, right? So AI really, it helps us a lot with market research, right? So there's a couple of tools that we use where, when I think about, like, a couple of years ago, it would have taken me hours to go through some of this material. And now AI can help synthesize all of that into a couple of seconds. Surely you still need to proofread what it's churning out, right? You still have to check, because AI is not perfect. AI makes mistakes. You still have to check what the outcomes that it produces and verify it, right? And so
Right.
that's why I'm always telling people to be not wary, but be careful when you're using tools like ChatGPT. Because
Uh-huh.
one of the biggest issues that I found with ChatGPT is you don't have a source. And number
Mm.
one. And number two, I can't remember exactly, but there's a specific time limit, which means that after that specific date, whatever ChatGPT churns out will not be accurate, right? So there is a time limit on the software.
What are you talking about now? Now you're talking about ChatGPT 3.5 that's not connected to the internet.
Yes.
Yes, and so I think they're
Yes.
up to 2022 or
Right.
maybe
Yes,
23.
correct. 2022.
Right. Yeah,
So
2022. But now if you're in ChatGPT 4 and you pay
yeah.
for the premium, it is connected to the internet. But
Yes.
then I say to that though, you need to
Mhm.
tell ChatGPT what type of sources you want
Right.
it to
So
review, or
and
it's even
yeah.
easier to say what you don't want it to
Yes.
reference,
So
right?
Q prompts, right?
Yes.
So that's where you have to train yourself to come up with the right prompts and the
Yes.
because you still again and to your point, it's you have to guide the tool, right?
Right.
So this isn't something where you just leave it to your own devices and you sit back and drink a cold lemonade, right? Um,
Yeah.
so it's been very useful in that regard, where it helps us save time and it helps us to be to move along a bit quicker. Because one of the things that we like to do with clients is we like to work quickly, right? And we
Mhm.
like to work in sprints. And what that basically means is like if you work with us versus like a bigger market research firm, we don't need 6 months to produce
Oh my
this,
gosh.
right? We
Like,
don't
what
need
why are
six
we
months.
spending
We can
6
do this
months
in a
doing
couple of weeks,
research? Like, yeah, you
right?
could get it all done in a month now. What used to take 6 months. And
Yeah.
in their defense, there are a lot of legacy market research
Yes.
companies that
Yeah.
do it the old-fashioned way,
Yes.
um,
Exactly. Exactly.
and which is okay, but
Mhm.
I still say that you could easily spend a month to do the interviews
Yes.
and then just let AI synthesize it for you. I don't know
Yeah.
why they don't do that yet, but I think that
Exactly.
they
Exactly.
don't. Yeah, I haven't. It's so funny. I haven't even
Mhm.
thought about a market research company in so long because of new technology.
Right.
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 And I'm
Right.
always doing market research. And now I even tell, and here's a tidbit for all of our listeners. If
Mhm.
you want to do market research, like if you want to understand whether or not your service is a good fit for your market, go to people you have either done business with in the past
Mhm.
or people you would love to do business with and ask them, can I get 20 minutes of your time to do a survey, a live survey? Turn on the transcription recorder on your Google Meet or your Zoom, I don't care what it is,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
ask the same 5 questions about what their biggest pain point are. What would they rather be doing with it? And if you have an idea, pitch it to them as an idea. So if I had a service that did XYZ that overcame that one of their pain points they pointed out, what would it be worth it to you?
Yes.
How much time would you put into it?
Exactly.
Dot dot dot, right? What would you expect from it?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
talk to 10 people, you will have 80% of all the information you'll need for AI to get you at least pointed in the right direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, you'll probably still need a marketer to help you put all that together because it's going to spit
Sure.
out a bunch of stuff that you're going to go, yeah, that sounds really good. Now, what do I do with it? But
What
at
do I do
least
with it? Exactly.
Yeah, right. But at least you
Yeah.
can take that to a marketer and say, "Hey, I did this research. Here's all of my transcripts. Give them the transcripts
Mhm.
because they're going to do
Mhm.
some research because we have prompts that we've trained our AIs to do for us
Yeah.
and different
Yeah.
outputs that we like. But then we can at least in that meeting look at what you have so far and we can discuss some of the idiosyncrasies of the output there and you would now understand what it's talking about because you don't know what you don't know. And if
Right.
unless you have studied marketing, which a lot of people haven't, a lot of marketers haven't studied marketing.
Mhm.
It's like the fundamentals, right?
I would yeah, I would say, well, first of all, that and I would say there's a lot of marketers out there that have not, adjusted or adopted to the times, right? Because it's a constantly evolving
I don't
discipline,
think they
right?
ever got the fundamentals. You got to
Yeah.
remember in 2010, 2011,
Mhm.
now Meta,
Mhm.
and all of the algorithms did all the work for them.
Yeah.
All they had to do is talk people into giving them the controls to their Google, their Facebook, their Instagram,
Yeah.
whatever it was, right, to
Yeah.
run ads, and then the
Yeah.
algorithm did all the work for them.
Yeah.
And that's how they got into business, because there were these gurus out there that says, hey, you want to be a marketer? Now's the time to be there. And then when
Right.
iOS 14 came around and, oh my gosh, now we got to figure this stuff out. They didn't have
Mhm.
any of the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And now they've been struggling for now 7 years. Some of them have gone back to the industry they came from, right? They had to go back to work because you can't adapt if you don't have the fundamentals. Like you said, the foundation.
Correct. Correct. The foundation. That's right. And it also goes back to what we were saying earlier. A lot of them don't know the fundamentals. A lot of them research aimlessly. And when I say that is like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're doing market research, but they're not entirely sure what to do with all of this stuff, right?
Right.
And
Or
number
they're looking in the
three,
wrong places, asking the
yeah,
wrong people.
yeah, and number three, it's the lack of strategic thinking too. So now that I've got all this data, now that I've got all these insights, what do I do with it? I
Right.
remember a quote from a mentor of mine years ago when I was on the other side, on the dark side of the force. I was in corporate marketing, right? So I was a product marketer,
Okay.
and they flew somebody down from headquarters in Paris. It was a French company, and she was responsible for training us on doing market research. So it was back then, before all the software, we were doing everything on Excel spreadsheets. That took
Oh,
days, boss.
gross.
It took days. But I remember this is what she said. She goes, I'm not going to do the accent. I'm just going to say, when you're analyzing this data and you're presenting it to somebody, you always need to remember how to answer 3 questions. What am I looking at? Number 2 is, okay, you've presented. So what? All right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And number 3, after you've explained so what? Okay, now what do we do?
Now what? Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So what am I
Exactly.
looking at? So what?
Mm-hmm.
And now what? All right?
Exact. I love that. Yeah. And I think that that's like, yeah, I mean, anytime you're presenting in any market, right? You
Mhm.
got to remember that the people who are looking at what you're presenting most likely are not experts in what you know. That's why you're
Right.
there.
Right.
And
Exactly.
there is one thing that I like AI for, is that if you ask it to talk at a 6th grade level, it
Mhm.
can do it really well.
Yeah.
Right. And I even tell people, like, so how do you write your prompts? It's like, I don't write prompts. I talk to it like a 5-year-old that knows
Mhm.
every piece of information in the world,
Yeah.
but it has no idea what the world is around it,
Yes.
because it has no conscience.
Right.
There's no conscience to it. Right. So
Right.
all it knows is information.
Mhm.
You give it context, right? And then
That's it.
from there, you then have to extrapolate the real world around the information that's there. And you
Correct.
kind of have to do that with your clients too, I think.
Correct. And so that's exactly it. So that's one great use for AI, right? For the market research aspect of it. And the reason why I'm so bullish about branding, right, especially
Mhm.
in this particular sector, is because it's um it's not just a refreshing experience. It's an extremely important step for the client's company when they realize that the product features and the pricing is not what differentiates them, right? It's the
Yes.
outcome, it's the benefits to the client, it's the experience that they deliver that hopefully will transform their customer's business and their ability to deliver that. And that's what's going to set them apart, right? That's what's going to make them rise above all this. Like, I'm just going to use the SaaS example, the sea of SaaS noise that's out there, right? Like, let me throw this at you. How many SaaS companies websites have you been to? All right, where you look at the homepage, you look at the message above the fold, and you keep scrolling down, and you get to the bottom of the page, and you're like, okay, let's try this again. You go back up, and you read through it again, and you go back up, and you read through it again, and then you go through it 3 or 4 times, and you're like, I still don't know what they do, right?
So, how does a fledgling technology based B2B company,
Yeah.
what's the first step in helping that they can do on their own to
Hmm.
helping them get their brand message on in the right direction, at least?
Okay. Great question. I would say if you've got 5 to 10 hours, I would sit down and map out what we call a diagnostic canvas. Okay, what is your reason for being? Like, why did you create this company and this product?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's got to be a reason beyond making money. Please do not.
Right.
That's not the answer we're looking for, right? What is your reason for being? Why was this created,
Right.
right? Who does this serve? And it may be different groups of people. Maybe in the beginning you start with one, and I would caution that you start small and you expand from there, and not the other way around, right? And you
Right.
identify who these people are, get to know everything about them. Please don't go through the HubSpot marketing Mary or whatever, right? Like, we're talking about the real stuff here. The real stuff here being, who is your ICP? What are their pain points and challenges that they're dealing with? What is keeping them up at night that you can solve, that you can help them to solve? Get in touch with these people, talk to them, ask them to walk you through what they're dealing with, what triggered this problem, what triggered this demand, what happened in their world that motivated them to look for a solution that you can provide, right? And ask them to walk you through their journey from A to Z, right? So who did they go to first? Did they search online? Did they look at websites? What do they look for when they go on websites? So I could go on and on and on, right? And you collect all of this information, and that will help you not just to have a solid idea of that buyer persona, but also their journey, right? And why is the journey map so important? I mean, you know this. It'll save you all wasting all this like marketing dollars and stuff that won't work, right? And especially if you're starting out and you don't have a huge marketing budget, if you see the journey map with the key touch points, that will help you to prioritize. Okay, so maybe they're spending a lot of time in this channel or on this platform. Maybe we should be there too, right? And especially in B2B, I mean, we're not talking about like consumer stuff where you go into a shop and you appeal to the emotions. Okay, let me get out my credit card and swipe. You're appealing to a buying group, right? Depending on the size of the company, can be anywhere from 4 to 6, 8, 10 people, right? What will appeal to these people? What will make this? I wouldn't say a no-brainer, but what will make this the logical solution for them to pick you? Because I think we've all seen these reports, right? Gartner and so forth, right? The B2B buying journey. Man, that thing is anything but linear. That thing looks like my garden right now. Right? It's haphazard. It's all over the place, right? And there are certain stages where they will keep going back for verification. They will go back and check online. They will go back and look at their trusted network and ask their colleagues, hey, industry colleagues, hey, have you ever come across this problem? Who did you work with, right? So reaching out to that trusted network. So a lot of this exercise is building trust, right? So if you're a small fledgling company and you don't have a lot of marketing budget to implement all of these like these campaigns and initiatives, I would start by doing that groundwork, right? Come up with that blueprint, that so-called blueprint, right? Define your objectives, understand who your target audience is. And remember, the target audience, this isn't stuff written in stone. This could change as you progress, as your product matures, as the markets that you launch into expand. You might be even adding on different ICPs, right? Who each have a different buyer's journey. And you might have to convey different messages to each of these people because they will have different motivations for working with you, right? So I would start with that before you start like pumping money into YouTube ads or things that may or may not work.